Yes, proving that in 2022, if you like Batman, you have to also like Nirvana. Welcome to the Bladtcast. I am Christian Blatt. He is Jeff DeRay. He is Will Starling. And she is Kaitlin Cornell. Welcome back to the Bladtcast.
You nailed all those finger
Kate.
movements.
We're going to talk about you guys. It's going to be great.
We're going to really focus on
the.
Not to be confused with the band that is called the. Right away, we got to hit this right out of the gate. You guys are killing me. I'm skipping nap time for this Dominican Saxon. I would never want to stand in the way of an adult male's nap time. But I appreciate you taking the time to see us while we talk about the Batman. And two of us watched the movie together, didn't we, Will?
Sure did.
And we went and saw it at the Cinemark at Howard Hughes Parkway because it's right in between us. Yeah. Did you notice online what would have happened had you come all the way to Burbank to see the movie that night?
We could have taken our masks off.
No, you could have seen Robbie
Pattinson. You would have seen Robert Pattinson introduce the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the AMC, which is, of course, where we would have gone. Because if you're going to the movies in Burbank, you're going to go there. And it was in the big comfy chair theater, which is, of course, where we don't sit in uncomfortable chairs. So yeah, we could have seen the Batman.
Was it like the 7 p.m. showtime? Was it a reasonable showtime?
It was a reasonable showtime.
Yeah, it was the show that we definitely would have gone to see.
Okay.
So,
well, if only we would have known.
If only we would have known. But the most important thing about the viewing experience with Will is that neither of us got up to go to the bathroom. And if you know us, and Jeff, you've been to the movies with us, that might surprise you a little, right, Jeff?
I just assume you peed in like the popcorn bucket or something.
Yeah. Well, here was my trick this time. I didn't do my usual popcorn bucket trick, but this is a different popcorn bucket trick. I didn't eat my popcorn for like the first 75 minutes.
I noticed out of the corner of my eye. I was like, is he just taking that popcorn home? Does he just want?
Which, by the way, could have been the case.
Yeah, because I know that you've done that with the extra popcorn in the past, and I thought maybe you were just
the refills for.
Yeah.
But no. So I didn't drink any of my beverage until like the middle of the movie, so I was able to hold it in. But,
although there is an article of the best place to leave the movie is the funeral scene because it's already online.
Oh, that's not a bad place. Yeah, I had after I remember when I first saw Avengers Endgame, I took notes on the little because I think we weren't allowed to have our phones. Because I'm important enough to go to press screening for Marvel movies, but whatever. So I think I wrote down a couple of times. So I gave people time. There were 3 points where you could take a break. It's like, if you don't go to this one, you're going to have to wait till this one. But I don't know. I was just relieved to not have to go. But enough about viewing habits and bathroom breaks aside. Jeff, you saw it before any of us because you saw it at 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is 12 o'clock our time here on the West Coast. So you could have spoiled things, but I guess it wasn't really like a big spoilery kind of story, was it?
No, I don't think this is really one that hardly has any spoilers.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff you could tell people, but it wouldn't impact the viewing of the film whatsoever.
Yeah, it's very spoiler alert, his parents are dead, you know.
Yeah.
And
spoiler alert, the Riddler's a guy.
But Will knows I did say this after. I was overjoyed by the fact that we got a Batman story, and this is the first entry in this universe. And we did not see the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. I just enough of killing those two poor people. They talked a lot about it. That's fine. It's very important to a story.
Those two rich people.
Very rich people. You're right. It's just unfortunate is what I meant. But I was just to not be shown that was good. I thought. But Jeff, in terms of big picture, what did you think about the Batman? As much as I want to call it the Batman because it's funny to me, the Batman. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. It's something I'll watch again. It was good. I definitely have problems with it. I think it's one of those movies where you enjoy it when you walk away and then you hear everyone being like, it's fucking perfect. And you're like, no. and then you come up with a list of reasons it's not as good, and then you kind of are focused on those. So I think I need to watch it again to appreciate what I liked about it when I first saw it, because at this point I'm stuck on all the things that I didn't like about it.
That's fair. And we will definitely dwell on those. And what I said to Will afterwards was that this could be in the conversation for the best Batman movie ever made if only Christopher Nolan hadn't made 3 better Batman movies. And the way that people are so quickly saying this is the best one, and I'm like, really? Like a week ago, The Dark Knight, or Will, what's your favorite?
Batman Begins.
Yeah. And somebody out there must like Dark Knight Rises the most. We used to have Bane on the podcast regularly. I don't even know if you remember that, Will, but
he's I don't know where he's been.
He's probably with Watto from Phantom Menace. I think the times changed.
The Bane voice is probably less controversial than the Watto voice.
It might be, yeah. But if you put Watto in the Bane mask, that might be something that people would want to hear.
I'm pretty sure that the Bane voice is racist against simps.
Might be the case, Jeff. Kaitlin, overall big picture thoughts, and we will delve into the good, the bad, and the riddles as we go through. But what are your just overall thoughts?
So I thought that, and I actually rewatched Batman Begins and The Dark Knight last night, and I honestly think that The Dark Knight is not as good as I remembered it. It's only good because of how good the Joker is.
Correct.
I mean, everything that has to do with Batman is like super lame. And I'm like, it's like, she's gonna leave him, Alfred. He can't ever know. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, get back to Joker.
Yeah.
This was probably, and like, I love Batman Begins. I thought it was a really great one. If you're going to do the Martha story, like it had great intertextuality and it was great filmmaking. It was a great kickoff to this trilogy. The Dark Knight is really the best because of how they portrayed the Joker. Yeah. And I felt like this Batman movie, The Batman, is the best Batman movie in terms of where he's at a year in, what he's worried about, what he's focused on, what walls and barriers are built up, not just physically, because in the Dark Knight trilogy, he relies on Alfred implicitly and he relies on other people implicitly. And at this point, he's only relying on himself to protect himself because he doesn't want to hurt anybody else. And that's what he's most afraid of. And I really like that was the theme, which is protect yourself from pain. And it's what the entire city is going through right now. I felt like we got more of Gotham and where Gotham was at,
right, and
what it takes to really heal. I thought this was a better Batman story, and I liked the Riddler's my favorite Batman villain,
but only the Frank Gorshin one from the '66 Batman TV series.
Okay, I really like the Riddler.
I mean, and we should definitely talk about, look, the Jim Carrey Riddler is not that far of a cry from Frank Gorshin. They're from the same cloth.
My introduction to the Riddler was Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
And I loved him in Batman the Animated Series.
David Hyde Pierce, didn't he voice the Riddler at some point?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like the best.
Cool. But I thought this was the best Batman movie.
Right.
In terms
what was your point, Jeff? Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say from the animated series, it was the Mad Hatter for me. Those were always the best ones because he was so like emo and depressed, and that was so like it was so much more interesting for those cartoons.
I agree with you as an animated Mad Hatter. I also wonder how that would translate to a live action film for adults. One point, and I'll let you tidy up what you were going to say, Kate. Sorry.
It's tidy.
The point about The Dark Knight is the big glaring hole from the first time I saw that is, why do you send him to China just because you have Chinese investors and you know what I mean? There's nothing to be gained from that part of the story. And it's only there for that reason. And it was at a time where that was happening in a lot of movies where it's like, you would go to China. Like there's a Transformers movie where they go to China and you know how much I love Stanley Tucci drinking Chinese milk. Will, we talked about it. We talked about it just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
That's how much we talk about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that The Dark Knight, I think that there's a lot about it. I think Aaron Eckhart is great in that. I think that there's a lot of things, but you're right. The Joker is so good in that. and it does overshadow any possible shortcomings. I can agree with that. Will, back to the Batman. Overall, big picture thoughts, and I know we chatted a little bit at the urinal, but for the audience who did not get the pleasure to pee with you,
we chatted for a long time at the urinal. Let me tell you.
Well, we're hoping somebody came by, but it didn't happen.
Well, I remember, and I still kind of feel this way. I was like, why do we have this movie? It's not different enough than what we've had in the past, since 2005?
Yeah.
That, like, we're so overwhelmed with Batman content, and to have gone from, like, Ben Affleck Batman, which is very different, to something like this. I'm making Kate crazy. Looks like she's, like, so upset. I'm just
trying not to do Michael Shirley right now.
It's not new enough. It's very entertaining. There's nothing really wrong with it outside of the fact that it didn't have to be 2.5 hours, and there were plenty of scenes that they could have tightened.
Let me just jump in really quick. Somebody posted on Twitter, why is everybody saying it's 2 hours and 56 minutes? It's 2 hours and 47 minutes with credits. And I'm like, okay, great. It's still fucking long.
It's still
like 2 hours and 47 minutes is too long.
Yes.
Even the Dark Knight, everyone's saying it's 2 hours and 48 minutes.
Of previews.
The Dark Knight feels long to me. But watching this movie.
I agree. I had that thought when I saw The Dark Knight. I remember having to pee during that movie.
Well, that also the Two-Face thing. I mean, I know Nolan doesn't do cliffhangers, but like that really should have been held over until a third movie, but it wasn't. But I really, watching this movie, I kept being like, man, all I'm thinking about is The Dark Knight. Like it was weird. I got the first 15 minutes. I was like, this is pretty incredible. Like I appreciated the voiceover, the very noir style narrative of it, the design of Gotham City sort of being like a new character instead of just a location. That opening sequence where he like the slow boot walk out and the score, the music. I've been going back and listening to the music a lot, kind of running through some of the scenes in my mind. But there's nothing about it. After about 2 hours, I was like, okay, like I would love a way to kind of get, and then we had 47 more minutes where then by the time we got to the end, I was like, I'm just not entirely sure that I needed this. It's not a reflection of the quality of the movie. I was just like, truthfully, I wanted to see like James Bond gadget Batman movie with Ben Affleck, but that's just me. So I was like, I would love a high-flying animated series-esque adventure. I feel like people keep trying to make Batman even more dark and more gritty and more sad to the point where even as Bruce Wayne, he's more dark and sad than he is as Batman, which is sort of strange, but I get it. That I was just like, for me, I was like, this isn't different enough to warrant this movie coming so soon after doing this already. Granted, I haven't seen The Dark Knight in a while. I watch Batman Begins pretty often, and I still believe that it is the most supreme origin story of superhero movies, period.
I mean, Roger Corman, Fantastic Four,
well,
notwithstanding. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
I always forget about that one.
Yeah,
I do agree with you that the
gold
Batman
standard
Begins is
well, and it's interesting just because people don't talk about
Yeah.
Batman Begins nearly enough. There's obviously, rightly so much focus on The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises is the continuation. But yeah, I mean, Batman Begins. Well, it's where it all began. No, it's go ahead.
All of it. And so there was an element to which this movie is actually all three of the Nolan movies in one, where it has the somberness and kind of this origin element of Batman Begins. It has this like length and very twisty, turny plot like The Dark Knight Rises, and then a third act that's like a whole city in chaos like The Dark Knight Rises. Mm-hmm. It's like all three movies in one movie. And so I think because of that feeling, it just feels really busy. And I don't know, it's like it's actually, the more I think about it, it's almost perplexing because like I'm not mad at it. Yeah. It's just like I'm just like, sweet, I guess we can have one more thing that people can like, that's great if it makes people happy.
City in Chaos is the third act of every Nolan movie.
That's very true. I guess that's
and
wait, I had,
and I didn't have to sit through Bagpipe Funeral this time. Which was real nice.
You did have to sit through a funeral.
I did, but it had no bagpipes in it, and it wasn't out in the open. They were like smart about it. I was like, why would you have Commissioner Loeb's funeral?
And Jeff,
with a bunch of windows.
Your point, but TL Stock with an amazing emoji. For those who are watching the video version, Nolan's trilogy cannot be topped. That's my opinion, but Nolan is just a genius. Now, what were you going to say, Jeff?
To Will's point, I think the thing that, for me, one thing I really enjoyed about this that set it apart from the other Batman movies is it felt more like Nightfall. Remember, I read Nightfall a while ago, and it's like there's the internal monologue. He's getting his ass handed to him. He's like going through stuff. He doesn't have it all figured out. He doesn't have shit squared away. And that's how this Batman felt to me when we were getting his like little journal narrations. It felt more like that internal monologue that you had in some of those older Batman comics. So that was an aspect I really enjoyed. But I didn't love this Batman. I didn't think he was my favorite Batman because I thought he was a shitty detective, and that was pissing me off.
In this one?
Yeah, I thought he was nothing he ever figured out other than knowing the answer to some riddles, which does not make you a genius. There's nothing he did that was really smart, because the only thing
drive, bro. Thumb drive.
That's it. That's what you need to be Batman.
The only thing that ever set him apart is that he has fucking cameras in his eyes, and he then screen grabs everything that's important, and then has Alfred, again, who he does rely on, figure it out for him, because he didn't have anything going for him.
Alfred cracked the cipher. I was like, "Here, now you have it." He's like, "Thanks."
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's why I'm like, no, this just did not seem like a super competent Batman to me.
Well, Jeff,
Jeff's Captain America over here in the comments. F-bombs.
Hold on.
Language.
Jeff is going to really love the sequel where Bruce Wayne does a lot of Sudoku, and he's actually really great at it. So I think that he actually goes up with the villain is actually Sudoku. It is a character that they have not used in the comics.
Numbers, man.
Yeah.
No, I think it makes sense if it's meant to be character development. If this is supposed to be year 2, he's still figuring it out. A bunch of people died because he wasn't being as good of a detective, and that's where you're going with it. Great. Yeah. I'm fine with that. If this is who we're getting as Batman, he's actually just not super competent. Not a huge fan of that part. Yeah. But yeah,
we're still in year 1. I mean, that's what they did.
Year 2
does beg the question.
It was just year 1. It just ended. Yeah.
If he's not that great of a detective, which he's not really all that much on paper, why does he have this super close relationship with Jim Gordon? Like, apparently then all the cops are even more dumb than Batman. Like, we got to bring in this vigilante who knows how to solve some riddles and crack some codes.
The letters are all addressed to him.
Yeah, no, and just to backtrack to Will's point about Alfred, he is positioned as someone who's very intelligent, except when it comes to opening a piece of mail that explodes. And you feel like his background, that might be something that he would at least consider.
Everybody is smart until you need them to be dumb. And then for writing conveniences, they're like, whoa, it's oh no.
Yeah.
That honestly would have saved us like a solid 20 minutes and would have made the movie. If we skip Alfred getting blown up and the hospital sequence, and we just had then things moderately fine, that really would have saved. Also, his horrible acting as Bruce Wayne in that hospital room, like that scene in particular, I was watching him and I was like, he is not very good in this scene,
so there's obviously a lot to get into, and one of the things that I do want to talk about is my immediate feeling walking out of the movie is how I still feel. I did not enjoy this portrayal of Bruce Wayne, and I'm also tired of at least people on my Twitter feed trying to explain why this is such a great Bruce Wayne, and apparently we're not getting it. But it's just like, oh, this is who he should be at this point. I'm like, look, and they're like, and he's gonna, you'll see in the next movie. I'm like, no, I'm just going by what I get in this movie, and I don't like it. I don't think that it just didn't connect with me. And, my hot take is always that to me, Val Kilmer is the best Bruce Wayne, just Bruce Wayne, because he plays him the way that I expect Bruce Wayne to be played. And
I need to rewatch honestly, just to see that now.
Just to see that. And like Adam West is up there too. He's got the right balance, but
not Michael Keaton.
No, I bought him as Batman, but then when the mask was off, I'm like, wait, this guy?
I
think Affleck was a good Bruce Wayne because he had been Bruce Wayne for such a long time. I think that he's really like, he lived in the character, and I can understand the idea that this is his, day 1 of year 2, if it's not year 1. But, so he's still figuring out who he is, but I don't know. It was just like I thought he was such a good Batman that the chasm between his portrayal of Batman and Bruce Wayne was my disappointment.
I
think it was intentional.
I think you might be right. Yeah,
I like the fact that he was uncomfortable as Bruce Wayne. That he wasn't like his actual face was something he wasn't comfortable showing. And I loved how uncomfortable he was in that funeral scene, and even like being vulnerable as himself is something that he wasn't used to, because he's used to putting the mask on and being able to kind of take on this character that can attack all of his bad guys and can kind of like, we all do that. We all like kind of like imagine that we have a part of ourselves that can beat all of our obstacles and everyone that we're up against. But when it comes to being stripped bare, it's much scarier. And I think that Matt Reeves was playing a lot, not just with the noir style, but the idea of having a shadow self.
Yeah.
You guys continue this part of the conversation. I'll be right back. Sorry.
I was going to say,
bye.
I did not love the scene where he was waiting to talk to Falcone and he's like, his head was down with his hair dripping. First of all, why is it always raining in Gotham? I'm guessing there was a deleted scene where a hurricane came in and this was like never explained why every day for 6 days straight it was raining. It would have made sense if it was like, oh, this hurricane's coming. That's also why it was Riddler's plan to blow up the seawall, because there would already be
I'm thinking that was a deleted scene, because that's what bumped me too. It's like, why was this such a big deal? And it was not portrayed at all. And I think it was, and I want to go back and see if it was in a newscast earlier that like they kept like saying, and I just didn't catch it.
Yeah, well, they needed that, but that scene where he's just like with his head down, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but seeing that scene just invoked old school Twilight Robert Pattinson with the emo shit.
Emo vibes.
It was just like, oh my God, no, you are taking me out of this by acting like that.
If they follow through with it on in a second movie, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand the purpose of it, because it's sort of like with Man of Steel. A lot of people were like, he's not even Clark Kent. He's not. And it's like, it's actually the Clark Kent origin story more than it is the Superman story. And this, it's a Bruce Wayne origin story almost more than it is a Batman origin, because he's reevaluating how he's going to go about doing this. And it's obviously a balance. And now he's going to be nice Batman, holding people's hands as they get flown up on helicopters.
Well, it's the transition from. I think this was a movie about healing and how to heal from pain, because I don't know a single character that wasn't healing from something from 20 years ago, some sort of, whether it was Catwoman, which we need to talk about, Bruce Wayne, Riddler, even being one of the kids, like everyone was healing from something, from a trauma that these old white dudes had put them through, which is what our generation is going through. And I think The Rain not only is a very big noir trick. A lot of this movie had a lot of noir style elements to it that aided in the film, whether it's the literal theme of light versus shadow, and you're using a lot of shadows, and the red as it was like a replacement for all of the white light that's normally there in the black and white. You have a consumed or obsessed detective that can go between the world up above and the world down below. You have a lot of these kind of noir style elements, so like the voiceover that you mentioned earlier. Rain is one of those elements that is a noir style element.
Yeah, I just thought it was in the movie just for aesthetic and mood. I don't know if it, to me, I was like, this is a moody Batman movie. This Fork in the Force is all going to be in the rain.
At the end, I think when you have rain throughout the entire thing, and then the seawall comes down, and then he hears his own line get thrown back at him with I am vengeance, and he realizes he can't be that. Like, I don't know if there's any more of a, here's our theme, I'm going to wrap you on the head with it. Then when he goes into the water and he gets reborn, and it's almost like a rebaptism, and then he's a new Batman with baptism, being the light and getting out of the shadows. And it was like, that was a rebirth, and renewal was a theme in this movie. So they all kind of tied together, the theming with the way it was shot, with the genre that they chose, with how deep the conspiracy went. There was major conspiracy movie vibes. I'm thinking All the President's Men, if you haven't seen that movie, I think was a major influence on this one. And doing a very complicated conspiracy theory story with a very simple cinematic storytelling vibe.
Yeah, he referenced
with
Zodiac
Batman.
Yeah. Matt
Reeves has
Zodiac a lot as a movie, as a big influence for both the Riddler and sort of the style of this movie. Like, which is cool. I mean, that I like that. I know some people thought his performance was too big, but honestly, it was like that was perfect for me. I
By
like Paul Dano as the
some
Riddler.
people, you mean me?
No, a lot of even my friends, I talked to them over the weekend.
Yeah.
They were like, he was okay. I was like, I thought he was great. I needed someone to go
Paul
all the
Dano?
fucking way,
Yeah.
110%. I didn't care.
Right.
Because I haven't seen a cool Riddler in a Batman movie since Jim Carrey. I appreciated that he was like, and especially when it cuts to him in the video, like, hey guys, I just want to thank you guys for sticking around. And then he builds back into his persona. I was like, that's actually a very her human thing to do, is not always be on, and you kind of forget, and then you're like, oh shit, I gotta be my person. Like
I literally had a roommate in college where he was a nice kid, but it was just like, he just was a bit intense on some things.
Yeah.
And then we had like a single suite. So everybody had their own room, but it was a suite. So there was like 6 people in this like overall suite. And so he had his own room, and there would be times where he'd have his door closed and he would be going on these rants, like, and getting louder and louder, and just be like, "Rah!" And the rest of us would like come out of our rooms and like, exchange glances like, oh shit, like what is this gonna end in? I mean, it never resulted in anything. He was always super nice to us. I don't know anything that happened with this guy, but it was just like one of those, you'd start hearing this guy start ranting in his room, and nobody ever wanted to say anything to him about it, but we'd all just like wordlessly exchange looks like, oh shit.
It's very possible he had an undiagnosed mental illness, and maybe now he's on his medication and is living a fit and free lifestyle.
Yeah. The comment that I made to Will after we saw the movie was specifically the scenes with him in the interrogation room. I think that for Paul Dano's process, it's good that Matt Reeves let him go and do some of that, and just some of the yelling. I mean, people were laughing in the audience, and it wasn't supposed to be funny. And just personally, I was like, yeah, there's a couple of moments where you should let him do that in the moment, but then you don't put it in the movie when he's like, like that stuff. It was like, it got cartoony. But I did love what Will talked about, the like, oh, hey everybody, that's like him on his YouTube channel, like smash that like button, and but I did like this portrayal of a character who usually has a lot of questions, and either a leotard or a sport coat, and the Zodiac theme is the influence for the film The Zodiac, and it definitely has a very Seven vibe, in terms of, especially when they go into his house. And I'm not saying it's derivative of either of those movies, but you just feel kind of the inspiration there. It's a little okay. It's fine. I'm not gonna fight you on it.
I feel like he said they were inspirations for him.
Okay.
So I don't think that's wrong to say that it has that vibe. And it's what's wrong with. I mean, all art is imitation at this point. We're too far into art for things to be wholly original.
Like the Batman theme was definitely. I think Michael Giacchino said it. The theme was Imperial March inspired.
Yeah. Let's jump in for a second, because I see this in the chat. Cammy Egan, who's the better Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz or Michelle Pfeiffer? First of all, she also says my favorite is still Eartha Kitt, because I was like, you have to consider Julie Newmar and Lee Merriweather if you're going to talk about all of the Catwomen who came before, and we're just going to ignore Anne Hathaway or the kid from Gotham. Michelle Pfeiffer. Go back and watch that movie. It does not hold up. I'm sorry. That portrayal is you fall out a window and you're bitten by a bunch of cats. No, that's not strong.
No, she was scratched by them. It's
you're right.
She was scratched.
I thought they were biting
I thought they licked her and gave her superpowers. I'm sorry. You're right.
No, they did a little like kneading thing.
Yeah, right to the little march.
Their sandpaper tongues turned her into a superhuman.
I did want to talk about Zoe Kravitz, because I thought she was great. Sort of, pre cat suit, and then also, once we.
But did
get her
it look like
suit.
she was crying in like almost every scene?
Yes.
Maybe it was the rain, but it did look like she was like very,
Look, if John Turturro killed my mom, I'd probably be pretty upset.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so if Herb Stempel killed my mom, I would probably be pretty upset. Yeah. But you know what? You're right that I'm trying to think of like, is there a time where she looked like she wasn't crying? And she was legitimately crying sometimes.
She was legitimately crying, which, that takes a lot, especially with, how big those sets are. And,
Yeah.
I also thought that they were good together.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I never felt like perfect chemistry between Christian Bale and Anne Hathaway. I don't feel like it was bad, but it wasn't
you were
like
supposed to. That was kind of a weird. Yeah.
That's why when like at the end when they run off together,
biscuits.
yeah, like that part I didn't like. Oh, like so of all the times where Batman could run away with someone, this is the one where he does it. I'm like, really? But what did you think, Jeff, of
the motorcycle bye-bye? It was the worst part. That movie needed to
I did agree with that. Oh, that was bad.
That was
so
not great.
dumb. It was so dumb. The whole thing was dumb. They needed to end the movie with the like letting the person go as they're flying away. That needed to be the end of this movie, because everything that happened after it only made the movie worse, and is what left the bad taste in my mouth that made me focus on the things I wasn't enjoying about the movie.
Wait a minute. Speaking of bad taste and enjoying the movie, did you have popcorn during the movie?
Oh, yeah. It's funny you mentioned how you waited, because I did the opposite. Mine was done by the end of the previews.
The trailers. Yeah.
The 30 minutes of previews.
Well, I didn't know Cinemark's policy on refills, so I also had to take that into consideration. But yeah, you're definitely right about the ending. But let's I want to stay on Catwoman for a second before we talk more about the ending. But Will, what did you think about these two? I felt like the scenes that they were, when they were on screen together, I did think that they were great. But
I really like Zoe Kravitz. And so when she was cast, I was like, oh, what's cool about this is there's a lot of elements of this movie that did feel almost animated series inspired, which was really cool. And I got more of like an animated series kind of Catwoman Batman dynamic, or even, I mean, it is a little bit even more accurate to the comic books, which they do have this sort of like, they've tried it in other movies like Batman Returns and even Dark Knight Rises, but they're like, will they, won't they romance? Like, this is the time where it actually felt appropriate and like earned. And the fact that she's doesn't start as like a full-blown villain and then they got to make her like chaotic good. She's just kind of like already that person, which honestly, that just saves time. Like, nobody cares about her being a supervillain because everybody knows she's not. So like, no, I thought it was I thought it was a good portrayal, and that it makes it more. It does feel more grounded, and her like doesn't need the little mask. Of course, she's got the little cat ears and whatever, and her weird like hood thing. But
yeah, I mean, we could have used the return of Christopher Walken though. Oh no, it's Catwoman. I mean, we still could have had that. But that's probably the advantage.
But we had
Batman Returns.
Penguin instead, which we really need to talk about.
We should talk about Penguin. I
did want to say though, I enjoyed Zoe Kravitz. I didn't like the bye-bye scene, but the rest of it was great. I thought she was really good. I didn't think it. I don't know. I wasn't blown away by their chemistry.
Would you
wait a minute when he's holding her to stop her from protecting her from the I don't know who I was sitting next to. I was sitting next to one of my friends, but when the security guy came in after they fought and he was like holding her to don't, and I was like, oh, this is good. This is on like Donkey Kong. this is on. It's gonna happen.
I think the only thing missing from Motorcycle Bye Bye was maybe the song Bye Bye Bye, who I believe is from NSYNC, but
yes,
I also could be wrong. I think that
don't want to be a fool for you.
It's interesting that Penguin is not the villain in this film, but he gets a lot of screen time, but deservedly so. I think Colin Farrell is, I mean, I'm sure he's made bad movies. I tend to have not seen those. He's usually very good in what I have seen. And I think that this was a great part for him. And, look, when you have a comic book character, you do want to play it big, but there's a fine line. And I think that he walked it really well. I think it was a great character. And I will mention my personal annoyance during the car chase scene, which again is right out of it's right out of the French Connection. So you want to like find all the movies that he put together that are his favorite movies. Is there's like 4 times where they cut to him and he's yelling, "Get out of the way!" And I'm like, just you don't have any alt lines that you can throw out there and try and let him do something. Yeah. It's just like don't say anything. I was just like, is he going to say "get out of the way" that many times? And I've never been in a high speed chase with Batman, so maybe I would.
I've been in traffic and I have yelled that. God, who knows how many
multiple times.
I mean, it took me 26 minutes to go the last 3 miles to that movie theater on that night. So I could relate to
I
Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah. 405 meeting in that area, going north or south is like never a great time.
Yeah, I don't. 10. Yeah, we'll see where we can meet next time. We'll try and come up with something better.
Regardless of the movie, maybe Robert Pattinson will still introduce it.
Yeah,
even if we go see like Encanto 2, maybe Robert Pattinson will be like,
he'll just be there enjoying
it. It's me, Robert Pattinson. I'm here to introduce a movie.
I'm so glad we got the impression.
I'm a British actor. Look at me.
Well, Kate, you wanted to steer things towards the Penguin, the March of the Penguin.
I just didn't want to ignore the fact that he was awesome.
No, I know. So let's talk about what was so awesome about the Penguin.
I think that it's the best makeup I've seen in a very long time in terms of like realistic prosthetics.
Yeah, almost as good as Jigsaw in the third Punisher movie. Almost as good as that, but this is not quite.
Third Punisher movie?
You mean the second one, Warzone?
So the first Punisher movie stars Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, okay.
The second one stars Thomas Jane, who tried
How dare we question?
I'm pretty sure Dolph Lundgren's only a Universal Soldier.
I think you might be right, but he also will break you. Anyway, so yes, the makeup was very well done, but go from there, Kate.
I liked it. I wasn't when I first heard he was in this movie, I was like, really? Okay. And then I saw him and I was like, really? Okay. And then I watched it and I could not take my eyes off of him. The way he inhabited that character so fully. It wasn't cartoony. And I did like there was one moment when they had his feet tied and he did the little penguin waddle. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a nice little we have cartoony funny moments in this very not cartoony funny film. In a way that like Batman Begins and when I say relies on Alfred, it's not just for like smarts, but it's for like banter,
for jokes. Yeah, there's always somebody for jokes.
There's always somebody making a joke in the Christopher Nolan one.
What's the point of all those bloody push-ups if you can't lift a log?
Bloody log.
I mean, that's a fair question. I would ask him the same thing. I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're Batman.
You've got muscles. You're Batman. Come on. But I like that he wasn't a major player. I mean, I think we got people when they aren't major players, which is, whether it's, getting a slight origin of Catwoman where she's not a supervillain. Like we're dealing with the conspiracy of Gotham's elite itself. And that all of these supervillains are results of that. And so we're getting consequences right out of the gate, but not like, the cartoonish, like overblown, like, the police are asking Batman to help with a thing they can't solve. It's like it's all ingrained and all embedded in everyone's fallout, basically. And I liked that the Penguin wasn't a major player, that like they were accused that the thing that they were accusing him of is wanting to become a major player. And so he did this whole other thing. And then I did like how he was just like, am I the only one who knows Spanish?
that was actually nice.
I was just like, yo, dude.
Jeff, what did you think of El Penguino?
He was definitely one of the easy bright spots of the movie. Him and Jeffrey Wright, I think their acting was just phenomenal, unimpeachable. I can't tell you a scene they did that I didn't like. I thought this was a really good role for him because I feel like he got to go a little crazy, and he's always the best when he gets to do a little bit, dip into the crazy. For me, Colin Farrell, I love like when he gets to be a little bit more loose as a character. Again, I agree with the prosthetics. I even thought it was really clever the way they made the scar on his lip make it look almost like he had a beak nose when you would look at him straight on. I thought that was incredible. That was really ingenious.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of little things like that were great. but this also reminds me of one of the problems that I had, or that just didn't make any sense to me. And it's when Catwoman is talking to Carmine and then invokes her mom's name before she shoots at him, like he didn't know who her mom was. Because through that entire point, I was under the impression, based on everything he did, that he knew that was his kid. And so if he knew that was his kid, why would he not know who her mom was? So it just didn't make any sense why that happened.
I do agree with you in that up until that moment, I assumed, that it was like he looked after her enough where it was like he made sure she had a job and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even the dismissing of everybody else from the room, the way he did that and the way he yelled at his lackey who came in, that was, hey, this is my daughter. Like, you don't interrupt.
No, I agree. That is inconsistent. Yeah.
So it just didn't make sense.
It also is weird, but it's also like, this is where I would be like, is that she was like on the edge of like being homeless.
Yeah.
I would want my daughter as close to me as possible. And
but what if it was your illegitimate daughter, which,
I'd still make sure she's taken care of.
So you're saying that you're a better person than a crime boss? Is that what you're trying to convince us? I've never felt that way. I've known you for about a year now, and I've never felt that you were better than any crime boss.
No, you'd be a Boba Fett crime boss. You're just really nice.
You know.
That's true. You are a Boba Fett crime boss. You're
you
very nice.
It was they did a whole, the way they played it though. When we first have Carmine meet Catwoman, you go, oh, he's sexually interested in her, and that's uncomfortable because she doesn't seem like she likes that. And then right, because it's like there's this really familiar relationship where you go like, uh-oh, yucky. No, and then later you find out, oh, he's her dad, and so you go, oh, actually that informs those scenes where you go, oh, she just doesn't like him, but he's actually just being like, hey, you're my kid, nice to see you. And then we come back to like, my mom was this lady, and it was just, I don't know, it really didn't make sense to me.
Those are like twisty-turny convenience things where it's like, well, we got to get it somewhere, so she's pissed, so she tries to kill him, so Batman stops her from killing him. So we'll do it here. Like,
just do it here.
Yeah.
I was.
She could have just said, "I know you killed my mom.
Exactly.
I know that it wasn't something else." That's all she had to say.
Did she say that I was her kid, or did she say
she just said this is hi for, or like hello from, and then she said her mom's name. That was what I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering it.
It sounds the way I remember it.
I think we have to see the movie again.
Let's all go. Well, I guess, Jeff.
I'm not going to sit in the theater that long anymore. I'm going to wait for it.
You're going to wait for it on...
It's another 6 hours out of my day.
You're going to wait for it to be cut up into 65 chapters.
I'm going to wait for the 7-hour version on HBO Max.
The trailers. And...
That'll be great.
The Snyder cut of all the movies.
The full year's worth of footage version.
Yeah.
Will, I was going to reference Chinatown. She's she's my sister, she's my daughter, but you had the better, more Bladtcast reference, of course, from the Miami connection. What was it that you said? My father.
You said my mom is Maria Kyle. Okay.
Oh yeah, Maria Kyle. Yeah, exactly. Wow, you watched the whole movie again right there in those few seconds. That was very impressive, Kate.
Thanks. No, it's Ivan. I got help from the chat. Thank you, chat.
Oh, so you're cheating. He passed you a note.
No, I'm chatting.
How can we say that he's reliable?
Will, weigh in on Oswald Cobblepot, and does he give Danny DeVito a run for his money?
No.
Okay.
Danny DeVito's the best.
The best everything.
I really like Danny DeVito as the Penguin, only because of the way that he's caught in the end, where he's trying to control the car, and he just replays. I played this freaking city like a harp from hell. That's just always been a great line that I've loved. And when
that is a pretty good line.
Yeah. He's just so gross.
Well, yeah.
No, Colin Farrell. I mean, it was great. Of course, it was great. I think it'd be hard to find somebody who was like, that was the most bullshit part of the movie. I was reading this morning about the makeup and how that was not the original plan. He's like, Matt Reeves said when we cast Colin Farrell, he was not supposed to look like this. But the makeup designer did like a cast of his head, and he went in to see it and was like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, that's what he can look like. And he's like, there's no way, if this is, people are going to see the makeup. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when even makeup is like supposed to be amazing, it's like, you can still clearly see it's just like a person under there. But I guess the makeup designer was like, no, like I fucking swear to God, I promise no one will be able to tell. And he was right. They did a good job. So, in those early trailers, everyone was like, wait, that's Colin Farrell?
Yeah.
And it definitely didn't pinch or bend in weird ways. Like there's stupid, silly makeup things or costume design things that for some reason I just can't get over. Like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano with the bends in her headpiece because they're bent naturally because it's just heavy like latex and foam or whatever. I'm like, that really bothers me for some reason because I'm seeing so clearly a fault of the wardrobe or makeup. So it was cool that this was one of the very few times.
It's interesting
that, like,
because
really
too, I mean, you can fix things like that, you know, in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the cowl that they have for him, every time he turned, it stuck out. So they did
Just
CGI
digitally.
to make it so that it stayed on his face. So yeah, you can fix stuff like that. I
Right,
mean, in this day and age, you
The
shouldn't
same
have those.
studio fixed Margot Robbie's butt.
What
right?
what was wrong with Margot
Oh, they
Robbie's
made her
butt?
The
shorts
Suicide
shorter
Squad,
in the
they made her
Suicide
shorts
Squad?
shorter. Well, that was like
Yeah.
a whole thing for the first one, right?
For the first Suicide Squad, they made her shorts shorter.
Yeah.
That was like
Oh.
they spent millions of dollars shortening her shorts.
Wow.
After Effects.
That's like when
Wow.
they spent what seems like about $2,000 in the film Hudson Hawk to give Bruce Willis hair throughout the whole thing.
No, this is the best one though. Is Call Me by Your Name. Army Hammer had to have his testicles removed from from all of the short shots because they were peeking out. So someone had to look at that.
Did they really?
They did.
He was like, these shorts are too long. I need shorter shorts. People might need to see mine. It's a gay movie, you know.
Yeah.
You never know what people might. I'll
and,
bond somebody up at the end of it.
No, Sam
Past the
Wilson's
lady
cowl,
fingers.
not John Walker's cowl. It's in the that's from Ivan Soto asking about Falcon Winter Soldier. It's in the making of whatever they call those on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so and yeah, I mean, little tidbits like that are usually pretty interesting. But yeah, so we mentioned him in passing. Let's talk about Jim Gordon. What did you think? I'll ask you first, Will.
I love that Jeff loved him. I actually thought he was just like okay. Like I don't know why he and Batman had the same voice. Every time they were in the scene together, it was like, what do you think of this? And he's like, I don't know. What do you think? Well, maybe it's a thumb drive. I see. I'll put it in the laptop. Like they were just having a fucking gruff voice off. Like 90% of the characters like, hey, I'm Oz. Good to see you. I was like, this is fucking everybody in Gotham a weird voice person? Like, I'm so cool.
Yes.
Hey, you doing? You coming to the club? I'm like, can anyone just fucking show up and say the words? I thought only Batman was supposed to have the Batman voice. He was fine. I mean, I love Jeffrey Wright. There was nothing wrong with the performance, but I definitely thought it was felt a little put on for me that he was like making him more gruff. And I was like, I kind of want him
I
to
feel like
just.
that's his normal voice, though.
But
That
I
is
wanted
his
him to be the
normal voice.
grounding presence for Batman.
I thought it
and
was the
felt like
grounding presence. I
felt like a
something?
Batman off, and ironically, he's voicing the Batman in that one podcast.
That's funny.
So he's good. Nope, nothing is bad in this movie. There are things that for me, I was just like,
I felt like everyone was in the same world, so it was okay.
I do understand.
Nothing stood,
Will's
it wasn't like Dark Knight Rises and then and you're like, what the hell? So it's like if everyone was in the same world and Bane was in the same world, it would be fine, and we wouldn't be making fun of the voice so hard.
I think
but
you're right.
Everyone in the Batman, like they knew, and that was Matt Reeves.
If he was
the world,
if he was too sunny,
it's a mistake.
If he was like, "Hey, Batman, what do you think we should do now?" Like,
I like that everybody's opinion of my criticism is like, well, what do you want it to be? 180 degrees the other way? Like, I'm Jim Gordon. It's like, no, I just kind of want to talk.
Oh, but you know who is great? Just in a counter to your point, like to add to your point, and it's not everybody. That one guy who's the like little baby detective who's just like, hey, it's Bruce Wayne. Oh, hey, Batman. Like the guy. Okay, so do you remember the guy in at the funeral scene?
Yeah.
When Batman
like, hey,
shows up
Bruce
and it's
Wayne,
like,
yeah.
hey, we're looking for this guy. He hasn't been around in like 4 days. And then there's that one cop in the background. He's like, hey, it's Bruce Wayne.
Oh, the dude with the mustache. Who's at the
dude with the
Riddler's place.
mustache.
He's like,
and
what
then
are we
he
looking
goes
at here,
back
Batman?
to Riddler's house and he's just like, freeze.
Yeah.
What's up, Batman?
But
it was a Wahlberg-y kind of character. It was
So
very
good.
funny.
Oh, hey, Batman, how you doing?
Hey, how's it
I
going?
think he's supposed
Why
to
you saying hello to
reflect
Martha?
the general, like, I thought one of the themes that I thought was supposed to be prevalent in this movie is he's not anyone's hero at the start of the movie. Like, nobody likes him, nobody at all. Only Jim Gordon likes him pretty much in the entire city. Everyone thinks he's an a-hole except Jim Gordon. And then
Okay,
that's
yeah.
why, to her point, after the baptism, he's going over to help some people, and they're like, are you gonna punch us? Because I'm pretty sure you just punch people. And then he actually like helps them out in this really simple way where I'm like, you guys could have gotten out of there on your own.
Yeah,
And then leads them with the flare, and that's supposed to be like, oh, people actually like him and trust him now he's a hero to people instead of just a guy who punches other people.
Yeah, the sequence with the subway, I think, does a really good job, setting that up. It's like he rescues this guy and he's like, don't hurt me,
Please don't hurt
and
me.
I think that you're right. To Will's point, Ivan Soto says, what was with the voices in this movie? Like the commissioner, the police chief, and Falcone.
And
I do
Ivan,
agree.
yes, I saw you said that earlier, and yes.
And
Roll
yeah,
back.
I mean, I think that there's different way. I don't know. I mean, I think that like Gary Oldman's delivery of Jim Gordon, it's like you just felt like that. I feel more like that's the way he talks with an American accent. So obviously that's part of it. But I don't know. I mean, did Jeffrey Wright always talk like this, like on Westworld?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then I
The
don't
French
know.
Dispatch, he sounds like that.
In the French Dispatch, he absolutely
What if he sounds like
this.
that?
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's the Watcher. So yeah, yeah, I think that I liked him. I think it's a good portrayal. We'll clearly see more of him.
Yeah.
Did we ever actually get J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon? By the way,
did.
But it was like not much though, right?
No,
it was like So
I think what we can say for these movies, regardless of if you like the world that Chris Nolan built or the world that Matt Reeves built, they're two separate things, and they're almost the only thing that we can compare them to is they both have Batman in it, and it's like, but it's a different. Just like the comic books have spanned years, it's like which version of Batman are we focusing on? And so like the world that Chris Nolan built was very, very complete and very, very tight and had a very specific lens to it, whether it's all of the characters talking in a similar bantery fashion. It's a little bit more clear. The voice is a little more out. It's a little bit more bright. So you can see things. The coverage that they do is pretty simple, so that you can get the meat of the scene very quickly, as opposed to Matt Reeves, which had a very distinct visual style and auditory style.
Nolan was also limited by the fact that he wanted to shoot as much of Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises with IMAX cameras as possible.
Yes.
And shooting coverage for those things. And like those cameras were just so fucking big. I think they're smaller
huge
now. But they were so big at the time that it was like, I remember seeing it, even Batman vs Superman too, in IMAX, and it would just snap back and forth between 35 and 70. And I think that like for him, he just wanted to try to use that, expand the IMAX shit as much as possible. So that whole China sequence, even more than it probably existed for budgetary reasons, for Christopher Nolan's like, well, fuck it, we could shoot this whole thing with IMAX cameras then. So let's do that. And like that's a scene that's just exists almost to be like this beautiful 70mm shot.
Will, according to Ivan Soto, I think you would fit in well in Gotham, because Gotham here as well is the city of mustaches. So that is something we shouldn't discount that, Will. I think
that's my Jim Gordon impression.
By the way, I would have you read for Jim Gordon. I mean, if Benjamin McKenzie can play Jim Gordon, how is it that Will Sterling cannot play?
Mustache. I would play it really like Batman. I'd be like Wahlberg. I would be Wahlberg. Hey, what is it? Hey, Batman, it's me, Jim Gordon. How you doing?
I can be a blonde Batman.
Why you not text me back?
Kilmer. And because I've got the emotional issues to portray a Batman, right?
That's true.
Deep-seated anger.
I would be the Catwoman that's like, let's not, and then say we did.
Yeah, but you would like that big old bag of money. I mean, come on, what Catwoman doesn't want that?
I could just marry a billionaire.
Why don't we get the animated version of Batman's Catwoman, where she's already independently wealthy and steals just to finance her cat reserve?
I want to play Scarface, the very scared little bald man who has the puppet on his hand.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Scarface.
Are we gonna get Croc Killer? By the way,
and it's like,
Killer
shut
Croc.
up, you son
Killer
of a bitch.
Croc
We got a job to do.
in the second one.
I hope not.
Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday.
I'm sure it doesn't fit in the universe, but maybe
The whole city's underwater right now.
Ooh, wait, what's that doctor who figures out Bruce Wayne is Batman?
Leslie
And he's like a
Tompkins?
psychiatrist.
Dr. Oz.
No.
Or is it Hugo Strange?
Hugo Strange. There you go.
Yeah.
Or is
I
it
like-
Hugo Strange?
I liked my answer. Yeah, but you can't have a Doctor Strange in a Batman movie at this point.
No.
They
It's
call him
you
Hugo.
just call him Hugo.
Dr.
Yeah.
Hugo.
Dr. Hugo.
Yeah, well, in terms of other movies and other characters, Ivan very much does not like the scene at Arkham because of the reveal. And Will, we were sitting
Sure.
there and
Yeah.
you looked it up. That actor is Barry Keoghan or
Barry
Kogan?
Keoghan.
Barry
Yeah.
Keoghan. You one did not see Eternals, and
is he in that?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
in that, but also he's in 1917, the Christopher Nolan
Oh.
movie. Oddly enough,
No.
so
Dunkirk
he-
is the Nolan one. It's
oh
1917.
yeah. I got my.
It's Sam
you're right.
Mendes.
I got my
Killing
WW
of a Sacred
confused.
Deer. He plays the weird kid who's
Yeah.
weird
Yeah, but you're right. It was
I hate-
Dunkirk.
with Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
That movie
plays-
was so weird and it made no sense to me.
What was that
What
movie
movie?
called? I don't think
The
I.
Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's basically like
a great
Colin
movie.
Farrell's a drunk surgeon, and Barry Kogigo
Keoghan.
is some kind of weird jerk who's apparently also God, because just for no explanation he has
Sweet.
supernatural powers.
Oh.
And that just bothered the hell out of me in that movie because it's supposed to be so realistic, except he has supernatural powers with no
Batman.
origins or explanations.
So
Super
Matt
realistic,
Reeves
except he's
has
Batman.
said that he doesn't have plans
That's
to
such bullshit.
use
Fuck
the
him.
Joker in the next movie, but then it's
Yeah.
like, well, why is that scene in there?
He
And
went-
I
he's
guess
like,
there
"We
were
just-
2 scenes, so he cut one of them. And I was
Mhm.
reading that he did test screenings where he had cut both Joker scenes, and he put this one back in because he felt like
No.
it gave the audience something. But it's like,
No.
why do you cast an actor that people know who it is if you're not going to use it again? And if he uses it again, I would say just not in the next one. You could get to it later. I don't need the Joker right now. I mean, I didn't.
Yes.
I thought that the Joaquin
ever.
Phoenix movie was very well
Yeah.
made, but I didn't need Joker at that time either. I'm not saying that I didn't like the movie. It's just like before it came out, I was like,
I
why
think
do
they're
we-
going to tease the Joker for a little bit. I don't think he's going to show up in the next one. I think
Yeah.
we're going to get Court of Owls in the next one.
Pattinson
Ivan
keeps
wants to
talking
know
about
if I believe Matt Reeves. I don't. I think
No.
that he will definitely use the Joker. And I'm sorry. Who did I speak over? Jeff? Did I talk over you? I'm sorry.
I was
What were you
talking over you, so
Oh yeah. So all right. So Jeff, I'm waiting for my apology.
I apologize.
Thank you.
I don't love it when a filmmaker's like, we made one movie. We didn't make it with the intention to make other. I mean, I have a trilogy plan, but we didn't make it with the intention
Yeah.
to make other movies. This movie really stands alone on its own, even though we have a
It's
trilogy plan.
it's
So,
disingenuous in this age.
I fucking
But when
hate
it's
it.
a
Shut the fuck
franchise,
up.
and you
Well,
know it's a franchise. Like,
you
just
have to-
don't lie.
You have to appreciate George Lucas in this sense of like, no, it's not just one movie. I have 9.
Yeah,
Would you like to hear about them?
Like,
Oh,
whoa,
no.
okay.
No.
To
I
be
don't wanna
fair,
hear.
Star Wars just started out as a singular film.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
he mapped out the story and then he decided I want this one snippet to be the first movie. So he had it all, and but I know what you're saying. That by the time it was out, he was like, "Oh, you want any
I
more?
am
You
so
want a
tired.
Christmas special? It's awesome."
It feels like actors and writers/directors are now just trying to one up each other when it comes to the Joker. Like everybody wants to play him and everybody wants to put him in their movie because they all think they could do the more definitive, better version of the Joker. And we all know that that's not true. And we need to fucking take a break for a while.
It's
That
only
also-
Caesar Romero.
Yes, correct. The mustache. If Barry Keoghan doesn't have a mustache with paint over it,
Nope.
I'm not doing it.
How about
Will's not going to see it.
no?
How about this for an idea? Since this first one started on Halloween and we had some murders, what if we find out in the background it was the start of the long Halloween?
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what they were pseudo adapting already.
But
Well,
then it only lasted
They were
6
pseudo
days
adapting
instead of a
Hush
year.
as well, which definitely flashed on the screen at one point.
Hush.
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Which element- what
but that
element
would have
of
been
Hush?
the son of the reporter that his dad killed. So they've still set that up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
and
the
it's and
Thomas
Hush is
Elliot
the
or
is the
whatever.
Catwoman Batman romance. It's the main kind of like
I want to bring some real world observation in here from Dominica Saxon. Most theater goers don't know all the hundreds of Batman villains, so they stick to the ones the public knows and would want to see. I mean, there's a reason why we get the Joker so often. I can understand that, and it's, you can talk about Nicholson, you can talk about Heath Ledger, you can talk about Mark Hamill. I almost called him Matt Hamill, but you know who I mean.
His brother Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just an insurance salesman named Matt Hamill.
Yeah.
What's up, Matt?
And I do the same voice for the Hobgoblin that I do for the Joker.
Yeah.
But you know, and I
And the
think,
Flash villain, that's basically the Joker.
The Trickster. Yeah.
Oh, the Trickster. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right.
Before
That
he voiced the
was
Joker,
also Mark
actually, I
Hamill.
think.
Yeah, he voiced the Joker after he played the Trickster, and then the new Flash series brought him back as an older Trickster.
That was cool.
It was the best episode of The Flash that ever happened.
He was Old Man Trickster.
He was Old Man Trickster.
That's cool.
I'm gonna find it. It's the best.
He came to my college, and I was
Mark Hamill or the Trickster?
Yeah, but Mark Hamill. And I've always been a big Flash fan, obviously, and so I had that series like on VHS tape when they were releasing it as movies, and so they had a round of questions, and of course my question was like, what was it like playing the Trickster in the Flash? And he just had this look on his face like, oh fucking, I forgot about that. And then was like, yeah, I played this character named the Trickster. So when they brought it back in the Flash, which is Wally West comic book accurate, there were two versions. There was an old one, retired, who had kind of turned to the light side and was helping the cops, and then there was a younger one. But I think they were both bad guys in this TV show.
Yeah, it's in I think it's the CW Flash season 1 episode 17 is called Tricksters. It's a great episode, and if you don't watch any other episode of the CW version of the Flash, watch that one.
I watched the first 2 episodes of the CW Flash, and then I just had a feeling of like, I kind of got it.
Good.
He had a sidekick named Prank in the Flash TV show. It's great. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And he went viral.
No, this is the 90s one.
This is the 90s one. So
he went a different kind of viral.
I think that the point is that we have the Joker, or some version of the Joker, whatever, in here for a reason. And you know, I remember at the end of Batman Begins when he finds the card with the Joker, I'm like, oh really? I was disappointed. I was like, really, we're gonna go to the Joker? And you know, Heath Ledger Joker is great, but I don't even know that many Batman characters, and I would still like to not always have the Joker. Yes. But if they do the Joker, let's not Amazing Spider-Man 2 this. Let's not have him and a bunch of other villains. So if you're going to have the Joker, you should, because as someone who is more of an outsider when it comes to Batman, for me, I feel like you've got the Joker in your rogues gallery, and then your second best there's a lot of space in between. I just think that the Joker is the best, most realized of these characters,
because he just became the most popular.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why he's probably, if I had to guess, I mean, I would say he's in half the episodes of the 66 TV series. He probably isn't. It just felt that way. You know?
I the only one who thought that whatever Barry Keoghan's voice was
QAnon.
Yeah. Was genuinely not good. I was like, is this what he's going to talk like?
I was just so annoyed that scene was happening that it's like I wasn't listening to his voice.
I was like,
stop.
Let's try to explain for Kate. One of the regulars here on the show, a regular topic, is a character that we have that is similar to the Joker. His name is the Mediocre. You feel like if the Mediocre had been in that scene and he had been speaking to the Riddler, do you think that would have gone better, Jeff?
For audiences or between the two of them?
No, just for you.
Oh yeah, definitely better. Definitely better. Because just think about all the possibilities. He could have been like, hey, but what if you just like gave them the answer to the riddle? Then they couldn't solve it. That'd be the perfect crime.
You just commit crimes and then give them the answers as to why you committed them. Like,
you don't get to figure this one out, Batman.
Mystery. He gets to do nothing.
You get nothing.
You lose.
Kate, what did you think about
the fizzy lifting drink, Batman?
What did you think about the semi-Joker reveal there at Arkham, which, as we've established, drove Ivan Soto crazy?
We needed an ending to okay, how am I going to say this? We needed a button to Riddler's failure. And I feel like that's the best idea they came up with. I'm not sure it was the best idea, but we did need something to kind of
What do you mean his failure?
Well, because the Riddler is stuck in Arkham and the Riddler failed. The Riddler failed in his big task.
I disagree. I'd say he was successful. His big task was killing a bunch of people and exposing the corruption of the city, which he did.
Yeah, but at the end of that film and at the end of that scene, it's, you know, he blew up everything and everything, but it's still, it was to kill the mayor-elect, which they didn't do. It was hushed. It was
surprisingly, by the way, because there was a clean shot on her.
Very clean shot. I was very surprised.
And I was shocked at how well she did. So apparently,
well,
the
it was also
was
none of those were really military. It's like, you know, the
Yeah,
insurrection. I think they were very inspired by that insurrection.
Yeah.
So you mean
the Riddler's?
But when we go
the Riddler's Q friends, basically.
It was very much
basically,
the January 6th squad.
Yeah, but it was also when you first hit the beginning of that scene and the end of that scene, the Riddler is in two different places. So as a scene, it's like we have to take the Riddler from one kind of headspace into a different headspace. And instead of going from I was successful, no, I wasn't because Batman foiled me, they went from Batman foiled the ultimate goal, even though all of the pieces lined up and everything happened. You know, he also thought that Batman was on his side and he really wasn't.
See, again, I thought the Batman lost, and I thought that was the point, right?
Because
he was a bad detective, he didn't solve the big things, which were the explosions.
I'm talking about the scene.
Okay.
Where the Riddler is at the beginning of that scene and where he is at the end. We needed a button on his story. We couldn't just leave him where Batman left him in Arkham. We needed another button. And I'm not sure they chose the right one. That's all I'm saying. Regardless of like what you think, if you think he failed, if you think he succeeded, at that moment in that scene, the way that they wrote it, the Riddler thinks that he failed. And at the end of that scene, he thinks he succeeded.
To Kate's point, yeah, the Riddler didn't get exactly what he wanted. But to Jeff's point, he was successful, more so than a Batman villain often is. But
and
I liked what you
sometimes
were saying.
your friends have to remind you that you were successful.
Sometimes your friends are the Joker. But Jeff, I liked what you were saying, though, is that Batman was a bad detective. You know, it was like he figured out the crossword puzzle, but really the big thing, you know, he just didn't see it coming, and the Riddler was surprised. I mean, talk a little bit about Batman's bad detecting.
Me?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
So I felt like, again, it was all the scenes where you would normally think that either, and again, this is just comparing this to the other versions of Batman that I know. Batman would have it in the moment. Batman would have figured it out in the moment. Batman would have been like, what is this tool for? What's the origin of it? I see that it was used to murder, but like, what is it? If I don't know what this tool is, I should know what this tool is. Like, just like, because again, the simple inquiry of like, oh, that's a whatever to the Tucker, he immediately knows what to do to figure out more of the mystery. And that lack of curiosity is not a good detective, not the world's greatest detective, which to me was always, we talk about Batman not having superpowers, or we talk about Batman relying on all his tech, which again, to me, the tech was always supposed to enhance what Batman's superpower was, which is like Iron Man. He's a genius. He's a brilliant human being, and then brilliant at using that to be a detective. He's brilliant at sussing out clues, brilliant at finding the hidden meanings. That was always what separated Batman as like not just a hero, but a superhero. Because you could have another detective who just, you know, walks the line, but then you just have Rorschach, or you have the Night Owl, where it's like they go do stuff, but they're not Batman. Batman is all of that wrapped into one. That's what makes him so successful.
Yeah,
but what we also have to be like, he's on year 2. He's still learning how to do all this stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
He is called the world's greatest detective. But I think that there's room for, again, all of these things, including the Bruce Wayne thing and the detective thing, if these are not actually effectively addressed in the sequel, it subverts the movie. It's one of those things where you're like,
I agree.
Now the first one's not as good because they didn't actually follow through on what the narrative should have been, where he's a more put together Bruce Wayne for appearance purposes, and he's a better detective. He's more in the nitty gritty of that. So if there is that room for growth, then great. Yeah. But if they don't stick the landing on that, then it kind of fucks it up.
What I liked about this one versus the Chris Nolan ones and previous iterations is that, like, he doesn't have his shit together, and no one really does. Like, no one saw the end game coming, because it's like we always think when the bad guy is caught, it's over, and no one expects like there was other things happening. And I think, maybe that's why they cut references to raining for 7 days, and so the water line was higher, and like, I think that I liked how people could solve like the puzzle that was in front of them, but not see the big picture. Because the big picture wasn't, it was like hyper focus versus over focus, which is a theme of the movie of Batman going, I'm hyper focused on my goal versus, oh my God, I have to open up.
But you'd have thought that the moment after he participates in getting who was it, the mayor, whoever gets shot,
Real,
he would have then gone, I am not thinking ahead. I am only thinking about what's immediately in front of me, and then thought it out too. And this was one of the things I forgot to write down, but I thought of. So we see a bunch of photos of people leaving that club, and ultimately looks like the exact same angle the rifle shot came from. So that was his apartment the whole time, and nobody thought to check that building after they saw the photos from that place.
Yeah,
that
was my
lazy detective work. Like, this is the kind of shit Batman should have been going, what's the angle on this shot? Where was it taken from? Let me see that area.
It's almost like you can believe the GCPD not figuring that out, but even after only 1 year of being Batman, you'd think that he would have at least thought of that, or maybe Alfred nudges them and be like, "Hey, you want to go look for?" Yeah, no, it's a great point. And
there's also a part of the noir kind of I talked about earlier, and I think they used it a lot as their kind of base. It was a crutch at this point because of what we're talking about. But the quality of an obsessed hero, and when obsession is your detriment, because he was so obsessed on one goal, he didn't think, oh, well, where did this thing come from? And then he could have saved a bunch of people's lives because he was letting himself be spoon-fed by these riddles. And I think that's where growth can happen. Hopefully it will happen, but an obsessed hero and the positives and negatives of obsession is a theme in noir filmmaking. And it's certainly a theme in comic books.
Yeah. He's such a bad detective that as a kid, he couldn't detect his parents about to be murdered, and then creating the whole scenario that makes him Batman and makes people want to get, like, if he could have just detected that when he was 8, they could have solved everybody a whole bunch of stress, and they wouldn't have had any of these bad guys.
Yeah.
So it's really Batman's fault for being such a
screwed up at 8.
Yeah.
He could have been a little smarter. I did like that they actually, tackle the Thomas and Martha Wayne story head on instead of, saving it for another movie and probably never getting to it. I thought, I don't know. I mean, I think that this idea probably isn't a new one.
I think they're going to get a lot of background on his parents and his mom in particular, because they're talking about doing an Arkham Asylum ghost stories type series. And if his mom is supposed to be in Arkham, likely it's going to be about the spirit of Arkham, which would be her like dad or grandfather or whatever. And so we're going to find out about how her ancestor started up Arkham and then murdered a bunch of people in Arkham.
Yeah,
feed into her background and why the dad would need to cover it up.
When they first announced this movie, they talked about how they were going to do a GCPD series, but Matt Reeves said, I think this week, that they're actually not going forward with that for whatever reason. So they were going to do that for HBO Max, but so there's still a lot, stemming from.
Oh
this
wow,
movie.
a DC movie getting a DC series on HBO Max. That's not been done before.
I mean, before they used to all go to DC Universe, and then now on HBO Max, people actually find them, I guess, and they actually spend a little money on them.
Yeah,
I suppose. Well, I didn't want to overlook because as we talk about the movie, there's something that you focus on more than anybody I know, and you even referenced it earlier. What did you think of the score for this movie? Because I know how much you love the Hans Zimmer score for the Nolan movies, and just in general. And when
James
it's a good score,
don't leave him out of the first two. He didn't come back for Dark Knight Rises, but yes.
Oh, he didn't.
He was in.
No, he didn't.
They co-scored it with. There was the two of them. Batman Begins.
So I'm sorry. Who did he co-score with? I don't.
James Newton Howard.
Okay.
Great composer.
Olivia Newton-Howard's brother.
Yes, he wanted to get physical. But what did you think of the
Dallas.
score for this movie, which was
It's-
basically like, hey, take this 2-chord Nirvana song and see what you can do with it?
It's I listen to scores like usually a couple of times, and certain tracks will grow on me, and like that's kind of where I've done most of my like ruminating on the movie, is like
Yeah.
listening back to the music and kind of like sort of remembering and looking at the titles and knowing like where some of these tracks fell. And there's a lot to like about it, but it's kind of it's weird because it's like moment by moment music, as opposed it's almost more based on cues, like spun out of specific cues, as opposed to telling a specific story on its own. I think the theme kind of does a little bit. I think the Catwoman theme is probably the most like realized piece of music, which almost gives her this kind of like Bond girl-esque little suite. And the Riddler stuff is creepy and cool. But it feels a little disjointed. That like in watching the movie, the best part where everything really all came together for me, that I was like, if this is like this for 3 hours, like I'm totally in, which is the first like 10 minutes of the movie. That first track builds to him coming out of the shadows and beating up those dudes, and this
Right.
idea that the bat signal is more just to scare people away than to call him to any specific issue. It
Yeah.
exists to make everybody in the city be like, oh fuck, like we have to get inside. But it's again, it's one of those things I'm like, this is not bad. I appreciated that I thought he did a much better job. Michael Giacchino also did the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and those scores are fucking so forgettable. There's like nothing special. The theme is like you couldn't hum it if you wanted to. This is like one note, so it's easy.
No, and I know
Spider-Man.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
And it may.
I want to say on the note of the score that the choice of this very, for lack of a better term, sorry everybody, Imperial March aspect of, very hard-headed, I will reach my goal, versus the kind of lilting Ave Maria that comes in with Riddler stuff. And I'm wondering, this is my question, and if anyone knows the answer to this question, please drop me something. Did the Ave Maria and the 1989 Batman theme sound very close? And I'm wondering if that was on purpose.
The Danny Elfman?
Yeah.
If Danny Elfman actually ripped that off of, he ripped off the Batman score. If you listen to Bernard Herrmann's score for Journey to the Center of the Earth, it's literally right. It's in one of the little suites from that score, and you'll hear bum 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 bum. So like every composer rips everything off of everybody. So like it's entirely possible, but I do feel like because the Danny Elfman theme is so iconic that now people want to steer as hard away from it as they possibly can. Because anytime the Riddler's really featured and listening back to his theme, it's just a lot of voices. It is kind of like a choral thing, but the Ave Maria is not featured in the actual release score. Or really woven into any of the score music. So it was like but it was an intentional choice to use that song many times throughout the movie.
Yeah. But I do like the choral aspect of that. Behind the Riddler, there is this choir of other voices, like his followers, that will appear at the end. And I
wouldn't be surprised if it's a children's choir, which would sort of tie into the orphan element of it, because when I think about how it sounds in my head, it does sound pretty young.
Yeah. Which is also a theme in this movie, is orphans.
Right, exactly. So again, I mean, all these things could be intentional, they could not be. As a score, it gets better the more I listen to it in certain parts, but now there's plenty of tracks. Like, it's 2 hours worth of music, which is also a big release for a score. There's probably like 30 really solid minutes. That's a very long answer to your question, Christian, but I have listened to it many times. That's why thinking about this.
No, because I especially when you were talking about how you'd been listening to it, and Michael Giacchino is somebody that J.J. Abrams uses. He did music for Lost and the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and it's but I actually had forgotten that he did the Spider-Man movies, and those Spider-Man themes are not the best
have no idea
that we've gotten.
Amazing Spider-Man, they switched composers. Marvel's very good at. I'm surprised they stuck with him for 3 movies. They change their composers constantly, so there's very rarely any thematic through lines in their
No, and
characters,
that's
except for Avengers
often
and Captain
been
America.
one of your knocks on Marvel movies is that the
Very
scores
frustrating.
tend to be forgettable. But when it is a good score, you're always quick to point to it because
Yes.
when you do like it. Yeah, I think that as we wind down, Will, I want to know what is your grade? We have the Will Starling scale of justice, but also the Will Starling scale of we have movies that are fine. We have movies that are fine plus,
Yes.
which is fine plus, but French. We also have less than fine. That's really I think that's the only thing on the scale. And
I would say there's great.
Very good plus,
there is a
excellent,
great.
near mint.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Near mint.
CGC.
CGC graded 9.8. Yeah. Where does this rank for you on the Will Starling scale?
I think it's fine plus.
Okay.
Currently, fine plus.
Yeah.
Which is on a CGC scale of like a solid 80%.
Okay. Look,
There's more right than wrong. Again, I just don't know why we have it right now.
If you get 80%, I think that's good. I feel pretty strongly that I don't try to insult the movie when I say it's the 5th best Batman movie. It's just how I feel about it, and it's like the movies behind it are pretty bad, so it better be better than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Alicia
Silverstone is a goddess.
Not in Batman.
Clueless is amazing.
Wait, what is the top? What are the 4 in front of it?
The 3 Nolans, you can put them in whatever order you want, really, and 89.
Okay,
and definitely not Returns though.
See, even though it's like not,
you'd put Dark Knight Rises above this movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Mask of the Phantasm
because of
animated.
Because of how the Pattinson as Bruce Wayne really bothers me.
He's not Bruce. This is not a Bruce Wayne movie.
That's what everybody's telling me. But he's still
not a Bruce Wayne
that's what
he's
they
got the
telling
mask
me.
off. He's sitting at the table. And by the way, I didn't love Alfred.
Severe lack of that song in this movie.
Yeah. I love the Batman stuff in this movie. And
it's the Batman.
I love that he has the same eye makeup as Robert Smith from The Cure. I love that. Okay, that's great.
He's
That's
got
a good
AF
look.
eyeliner for days.
He sure does. But don't forget how great the movies I'm talking about are. It's
We spent a lot of time talking about. I'm just surprised at Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, it's you could make the case that I would put Batman 89 over Dark Knight Rises, but it's still pretty well done.
Yeah.
Mask of the Phantasm.
And given how
deserves
nostalgic
top
you
3 for me.
are,
See, Batman, the Phantasm one, I did post this on Twitter, what my list was, and people were like, what about that one? I've just never seen that. So I've seen the
nostalgic, but it's very, very good.
I've seen the animated series plenty, but they're the animated movies I haven't seen. So
I think at least can we all agree the next Batman that should be made is Batman Beyond. We need a Batman Beyond movie.
I would see that.
That'd
be great. Yeah.
I need it real bad, guys. Like, I love Bruce Wayne, love him, but I need Michael Keaton and a young punky.
We're about to get Michael Keaton, and to Will's
or even
point,
Val Kilmer. I'll do anything.
Well, Val Kilmer's not doing much now.
George Clooney, it is Nipple Batman Return of the Nipples Batman.
If you saw the documentary, Val,
hilarious. They made a big deal of like nipple, no nipple.
Yeah, Val's not doing much right now, but that documentary about him is fantastic. And to Will's point about the familiarity of what this movie is compared to just sort of the tone of the Nolan movies, and honestly the tone of Batfleck is that if we had gotten the Ben Affleck standalone movie that they had talked about where he is an older Batman, I was very interested in that idea, because even if the tone is similar, you're seeing a very different thing. And the Batman Begins, we see the beginning of Batman. In Batman 89, we see early Batman. So we're getting that in this as well. And I think this is an incredibly well done story. I would like the idea of getting an old Batman at some point, an actual, like that film that's called The Dark Knight is not like a Frank Miller Dark Knight, which would be great if we ever got that.
Returns?
Yeah.
I mean, if we ever actually, that's what I mean. The
Yeah.
Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns. Yeah.
They made a good animated Dark Knight Returns.
That's true. It's like 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess
shorter
I'll
than the
have
Batman.
I'll have to look for that, but not on
Probably
DC
on
Universe
HBO Max.
because it doesn't exist anymore. Kate, so is this your favorite Batman movie?
Probably.
Okay, that's fair.
It's that and
Jeff,
Batman. It's that Batman Begins and 89. Like those are the three.
You can't knock any of those.
That's true.
Jeff, is this your favorite Robert Pattinson movie, or is Twilight Eclipse still your favorite?
What was there was a really good one that he did with the Safdie brothers.
Good Time.
Good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really good in that. And then I like he was good in Tenet. He was fine, his character.
Oof.
Did you hear the story of when he went to audition for this movie?
Yeah,
so he was working on Tenet when he auditioned for Batman, and he was trying to keep it away from Christopher Nolan that he was auditioning for the new Batman because he was working with Chris Nolan. He's like, I can't work this day because I have a doctor's appointment. He's like, you're auditioning for the Batman. He's like, yeah, I'm auditioning for the Batman. And he's just like, you better get it.
What about Jeff? It seemed like you did have problems, and I think we've aired those grievances, Festivus style, throughout the course of the last 85 minutes. But how does it measure up for you? I'm inclined to want to see it again, maybe in a theater, but like Will said, at home would be more comfortable to kind of get some more of a feel for it. But you're feeling right now. How does this measure up to Batman that have come before?
I would put it behind, like you said, the Nolan films only insofar as I can only gauge this off of how I felt about it. Yeah. And I think a big thing that this has working against it is that those movies, A, already exist, and B, a million more superhero movies have come out since those movies came out and this movie came out. So it's just got so much more working against it than those movies. I think if these came out in a vacuum, I think it'd be potentially a different story. But yeah, it's a lot of baggage. This is why it used to be a decade or 15, 20 years before they would try to reboot these. Now it's 3 years. So it's just a lot. And I didn't walk out of this with that same kind of like, holy shit, I love movies like this. I want more of them. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Again, needed to end sooner. I think that's a huge problem for a movie that's already 3 hours to have multiple
2 hours
scenes.
And 47 minutes.
Yeah, come on, Jeff.
Sorry. For a 2 hour, 47 minute movie to have multiple scenes, multiple dragged out scenes at the end that absolutely didn't need to be there at all. And the movie would have had probably more impact. That's a big problem to me, right? Like that's the end of your movie. You need to, like Will said, stick the landing, and you're fucking it up. Like
Return of the King did not stick the landing either, and it went Best Picture.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's what it felt like. It just you stop what you're doing.
Jeff,
it's like fade out.
Let me ask an important question. Did you have a Dr. Pepper pee brewing for the last 30 minutes of this movie? Is that part
absolutely
of it?
did. It was definitely one of those ones where you stand there and you're just in pain and you're like, all right, release, go, get out of me.
Well, if people want to have more Batman talk, obviously you can comment on this. You can reach us on social media. We will be doing a second episode of Bat Talk. Our friend in Texas, John Nolan, the Raging Rhino, he has a job now, so he wasn't able to do this in the afternoon with us. He'll join us, our friend Eric Connor, who's been on the Bladtcast, but also from Marvel Movie Talk, and I believe also a third mystery guest to be identified later, mostly because I haven't confirmed it yet. But so we will be doing that tomorrow, Thursday, March the 10th. Starting around 7 Pacific, looks like 7:15 right now, but so you can find that. And if in about a month, a little bit less than a month, if you want to see some Batman talk, Kate and I will be doing a new show over on the Geekscape Network where we will be talking about Batman Year One, which I've still have not read, but I have bought.
What?
I've never read it. Yeah,
what?
And that's the whole point of the show. It's the Geekscape Book Club, which will be a monthly show that they've given me an opportunity to do over there. Our friend Michael Shirley from Marvel Movie Talk will be there, and we will talk about that. and then a month later we'll pick a Doctor Strange book to tie into his movie.
Jonathan London, is he doing that with you too, or is it just on?
He's not. It's his network, but he's of course welcome to join in.
Sure.
But that's it. I don't believe that he'll, because he's read it already. So that's part of the idea, is that none of the hosts on the show,
none of the hosts have read. Got it.
Yeah.
Or
so we're all reading it for the first time,
right?
And so you'll be able to
all
find
your year ones.
Yeah, it's so we're all
Mine's still coming. Mine's still in the mail.
Oh well, I got mine next day, so I'm just saying Prime.
I don't do Prime.
I believe April 3rd is the day, and it'll be in the afternoon. But
I was trying to support a local comic book shop, guys.
Yeah,
that's good.
I gave money to Amazon, so I did it wrong. So my apologies.
I bought from my local comic book.
That's all right. You're good. Good for you. I didn't, and you're a better person than I am. But we've established that. But if people want to keep in touch, Kate, with a better person than me, how do they find you?
But not a better mob boss.
No.
At Cornellable on TikTok and Instagram. I will probably be seeing Batman in 2 more hours. So I really liked this one. So if anyone wants to fight me on it or agree with me on it or talk about anything else that's nerdy,
well,
there you go.
You should go in Burbank, because my understanding is that Robert Pattinson comes out before every showing.
That's literally the only reason. I'm just gonna be like, our Pats, yo, what's up?
And
we gotta talk about that scene in the lighthouse.
And it's awkward because Kristen Stewart is in the theater next to it showing that Princess Diana movie. So
Spencer, which is also great.
They're probably going to run into each other, and it'll probably just be a little awkward. Will Starling, if people want to learn about history, but in a way where it's maybe a little bit more grown up, how do they do that?
You can listen to my new podcast called History Rated R. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts.
Nice.
And
it's a good time.
If people want to see us with our friend Liev over the weekend, they apparently need to come to a Tim McGraw concert.
That's the only way we can hang out with him, is to go to a
Tim
McGraw concert.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in the future. And Jeff Duray, you're like the Joker in the sense that you just like to watch the world burn. You don't want people to comment on it to you, correct?
Comment on the world burning to me? Yeah. No, please keep your mouth shut when you're talking to me.
Yeah, no, keep your mouth shut. Don't spoil it for me. Let me just enjoy it. Yeah. You would sit there in Arkham with the Riddler and be like, yes, please, let's watch together. Like,
I mean, if you want an example of how the world's literally burning, as you can see, it's snowing outside, and it was like 60 yesterday. No, there's that.
Well, Jeff, what I always say is that I'd stop the world and melt with you. So I hope that you appreciate that. And if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And you can find all of our shows on the Bladtcast YouTube channel, including the Bladtcast, Marvel Movie Talk, Biden Time, which is on a kind of a bi-weekly schedule right now. That's but also Will's friend Craig, who is from History Rated R, did an episode a couple weeks ago, and then we did a special on the State of the Union. So you can find those on the Bladtcast YouTube channel. You can find everything, and I mean everything, on the Bladtcast YouTube channel. Well, just all of our shows. So please subscribe, BLADTCAST. That is all the time we have for today, but there'll be more Bat Talk tomorrow, and that is next time on the Bladtcast. Uh-oh.